Hi, if you clicked on this video, you're most likely dealing with some or all of these things. 1. You have low currency gains. 2. You don't know how to approach progressing your character. Or 3. Your currency gain has plateaued while the market continues to inflate. For each of these 3 points, I'll provide specific advice for you to follow. Disclaimer. If you just began mapping and you have not yet completed your atlas tree, this video does not apply to you. Right now, you are more concerned with map sustain. I will leave a video in the description for you to follow. Let's get started. If you are struggling with low currency gains, these are the things you're looking for. Low barrier to entry content that are easy to run and generate a consistent amount of currency. My recommendations are Breach and Trials of Chaos. Breaches are great because they can cost nothing to run. Most meta builds can run it comfortably. They reliably generate currency, and you can scale them to improve your currency gain. You can find strategies to farm breaches all over YouTube, so watch those first if you don't understand the basic premises of breach farming. Then come back here to hear my recommendations. Here is the recommended atlas for farming breach. Note that you should turn off precursor influence and turn on local knowledge whenever you are farming a swamp or water biome map. When you have low currency gains, the goal is to not spend as much as possible. So the usual guideline of running the highest quantity tablets for breach you can find is moot. Instead, what you are going to do is sell these high quantity tablets whenever you can find them and run everything else. If you cannot sustain these tablets yourself, try purchasing cheap ones on the trade website or use increased rare monsters or increased rarity of items found. As for what maps to run, quantity, rare monsters, and rarity of items found are the go-to once again. If you have them, great, but if you don't use Exalteds in pursuit of them. When you are crafting maps, I suggest you just augment and regal or alchemy orb. Adding delirium is pretty mandatory at this point, and while paranoia is definitely the best emotion to instill, it can get pretty pricey, so instead I suggest you run any lower one instead, and because the effect doesn't really matter, you can just instill one. You might be thinking to yourself, why would I pinch pennies when Exalteds are basically worthless now? My answer to that is items are still being moved around in Exalteds. Gambling for better maps when every Exalted counts is not a good use of currency in my opinion. On the note of moving around items, I suggest you sell everything. Most players know what a dump tab is by now, but they don't truly treat it like a dump tab. In the words of a YouTuber I watched a long time ago, if you looked at the item, you lost. Just throw everything in there and maybe change the price every now and then. Okay, I've been running Breach for a while now. How can I scale them to earn more currency? While you were running Breaches, you were collecting Breach Splinters. Collect 300 of them and they turn into a Breach Stone. You could sell these Breach Stones for a good amount of Exalteds, or run them yourself at the Realm Gate. If you decide to run the Realm Gate and defeat the boss, you will receive a Book of Knowledge that can be used to upgrade your Breach Atlas tree. These Atlas points will make your Breach more difficult but more rewarding. Do this as soon as possible so you can maximize your Breach gains. Next, increased rarity of items found has a pronounced effect on your currency drops. Strive to get around 100% and cap out at around 200%, as any more seems to have diminishing returns. You can find your total rarity by clicking on an arrow on a skill and looking for this line. Finally, remember how I said not to spend on maps and paranoias? Well, you can start to do that now. While I would still recommend to sell the 20% quantity breach tablets, you could choose to run those too. So now your mapping setup looks like this. You alchemy your map, exalt it to have maximum amount of modifiers, then distill it with paranoias. Your ideal map will look something like this, and now your final breach setup should look like this. An area of 3 or more towers imbued with high quantity breach tablets, your map, a maxed out breach atlas tree, and 100 to 200% increased rarity of items found. I guarantee with this setup you'll be making a divine or more an hour. I assumed if you're following this guide you are unable to do simulacrums, however if you can do them and you obtain the points, these are the atlas tree nodes you want to take. Prioritize these ones first, then do these, and then these. Similarly, I assumed you weren't able to clear citadels, however if you are able to clear them comfortably, I suggest you path towards them. You can identify them by their beacons of light shining through the fog in your atlas. I won't go into detail how you can optimize these, just know that the fragments sell for a very respectable amount. Now onto Trials of Chaos. Trials of Chaos share all the same benefits as Breach. They're cheap because all you need are 10 trial inscribed ultimatums, which you can buy in bulk for 1 to 2 exalteds each on TFT. And while it can be annoying at times, the trials are fairly straightforward and easy to run. Just watch out for these 4 modifiers: Petrification Statues, Volatile Fiends, Pyramid Beams, and Tier 2 or higher Stalking Shades. That's literally all you need to know to run Trials of Chaos. Regarding the loot, you are primarily going to make your currency via selling soul cores. The big ticket drop being the soul core of Escapa, which currently sells for 670 exalteds. Aside from soul cores, you will receive these fragments each time you complete the Trials of Chaos. From left to right, they cost 78 exalteds, 46 exalteds, and 30 exalteds. I suggest selling these when you're just starting out. Also, do note that you can get valuable gear, however they are extremely rare. Because I streamed myself running Trials of Chaos, I have data I could share about the profitability. Here we can see I have 1200 exalteds in my inventory, as well as 1280 exalteds and 6 divines in the currency exchange. In total, I had made 2,480 exalteds and 6 divines. The exchange rate at the time was 189 exalteds per divine. 2,480 divided by 189 is 13.1, plus 6 means I made 19 divines from 79 runs of Trials of Chaos. I started 1 hour into this stream and ended halfway through this stream. That is 19 hours total, therefore I made 1 divine an hour. However, I used the fragments myself to fight the Trial Master, and spent a lot of time yapping to chat.
Give it to me, please.
That is both currency and time I lost, therefore you can get much better rates than I did. If you want to scale your currency with Trials of Chaos, you can simply keep the fragments you obtain, and even buy some, and run the Trial Master boss. The 2 items you are looking for are the Omen Crest Shield and the Adorned Diamond. When unidentified, the 2 items sell for 2 divine and 60 divine respectively. Just know that they're quite rare, and the price to fight the boss is pretty steep. Which content you choose to run is entirely up to you, as both are equally viable. However, my recommendation is Breach, only because I have a personal vendetta against Trials of Chaos.
I'm thankful I can get the fuck out of Trials of Chaos now.
Okay, cool. But what is the point of all this when I'm being priced out of the market? Well, the reality is, there's nothing you can do except grit your teeth and keep grinding. But I do want to say, things are not as bad as it seems. A month and a half ago, when I first started gearing, a triple resistance life belt would have run me 20 exalteds, which was everything I had. Now if I look at the trade website, I find that, wait a minute, that's the exact belt from the screenshot. The point of this bit is to show that serviceable gear can still be bought at reasonable prices. While you might not get an Ingenuity belt anytime soon, this belt can hold you over until you get there. And it's not as though it's impossible to get powerful gear right now. Here is a snapshot of my build on December 30th. The crown jewel of my build at the time was my Headhunter Heavy Belt, which cost me 25 divines. As soon as I got the belt, my farming capabilities significantly got better. Now this item is worth 4 divines. Now I know with the inflation, the item values don't seem all too different, but when I say 2 soul cores of Escapas can get you it now, your perspective might change. Although inflation is definitely happening, the value of your loot is going up alongside it. Meanwhile, the value of serviceable items have either remained the same or even gone down. I'm not so tone deaf to say upgrades aren't hard to get, but if you focus on getting gear that is just good enough to farm the content of your choice comfortably, so long as you keep farming and catch a few lucky breaks here and there, you'll get to where you want in no time. Okay, but now I want to scale my currency. How should I do that? The principle of spending money to make money is also true about currency in Path of Exile too. Earlier I explained how you could scale your breaches by running the breach stone and upgrading your breach atlas tree, or about using the fragments you got from your Trials of Chaos to run the Trial Master boss. This principle can be applied to all farmable content in the game. I am not going to go into detail of all of the mechanics, but I will direct you to what I think is the next step for currency gain. Breaches and Trials of Chaos by themselves are the safest farmable content in the game. This also means they have low potential to be the most profitable per hour. The next step are rituals and the Trial of the Sekimas with the Desperate Alliance relic, which requires setup to run effectively. Due to having a setup cost, they carry a bit of volatility, but in turn they can generate higher profits than Trials of Chaos or Breaches. I recommend these farms for most players, as they can have high highs, but their lows aren't as devastating as these next farms. For this next section, Delirium and Expeditions will simply be looked at as simulacrums and logbooks. This section is the Chase Unique section. For these farms, you guessed it, we're chasing uniques. This strategy has the highest potential divines per hour, but is by far the most volatile farmable content in the game. If you're farming these, you likely have a ton of currency to spare, because a bad cold streak could easily eat up tens or hundreds of divs. Now that you know how you can scale your currency gain, you should pick what suits you the most. I would also like to note that even though I said Breaches and Trials of Chaos have the lowest potential divines per hour, you could choose to farm them the whole time anyway. Bubgun amassed generational wealth doing Breach 99% of the time. That's it, but this wouldn't be a video of mine if I didn't include a bit of yapping. If at any point during this video you felt like you were working a job and not playing a game, I suggest you just forget everything I just said and play how you like. Thank you for watching till the end. Bwomp.